The first thing I register is the scent. Rain dampening the jungle outside, mixed with something sharper, like expensive cedar and citrus. It's disorienting, a sensory overload that clashes with the heavy, rhythmic drumming on the roof. Then, the weight. A heavy, undeniable arm draped across my waist, pinning me to the bamboo suite's sheets. I blink, fighting the disorientation. The woman breathing against my neck isn't a stranger. It's Natalia, my fiercest professional rival. The woman who wants to bulldoze my career is currently curled into my side, her sharp, usually terrifying features softened in sleep. And I am absolutely, completely screwed. We are a knot of limbs, a tangled equation I have no idea how to solve. It's not just an arm. Her leg is hooked over mine, a heavy, grounding anchor that makes it impossible to slide away without waking her. We're fully clothed, thank God for small mercies, but the intimacy is staggering. My linen shirt is twisted, the fabric bunching uncomfortably, while her silk blouse is unbuttoned at the collar, revealing the hollow of her throat. This is the woman who wears structure like armor. Natalia, with her Japanese mother's precision and her Eastern European father's intensity, who usually looks at me like I'm a chaotic stain on her pristine spreadsheet. Right now, she's warm. She's solid. And she's holding on to me like I'm the only thing keeping her from falling off the earth. The panic hits me in a cold, nauseating wash. The board members are likely gathering in the main lodge right now, sipping coffee. They expect a bloodbath. They expect the ruthless American versus the icy international prodigy. They do not expect to find us tangled together in a suite that costs more per night than my first car. If they see this, the contract isn't just lost. My reputation is incinerated. I try to shift, inching my hip away, but Natalia grumbles low in her throat, a sound so uncharacteristically soft, it makes my breath hitch. Her grip tightens. Her hand splays over my rib cage, thumb brushing the fabric right over my heart. It's a possessive gesture, unconscious, and terrifyingly casual. I freeze as her breathing changes. The slow, rhythmic rise and fall stutters. Her body goes rigid against mine, the softness evaporating in a split second. Her eyes snap open, dark, disoriented for a fraction of a heartbeat, and then recognition. She doesn't scream. Natalia doesn't do anything as messy as screaming. She recoils. It's a sharp, violent withdrawal, scrambling back until she hits the bamboo headboard. She stares at me, chest heaving, her hair a chaotic halo around her face. For the first time in the 3 days we've been at Verde Horizon, her mask is gone. There is no cool detachment, no calculated boredom. There is only wide-eyed shock and a flush rising on her neck that has nothing to do with the humidity. Tell me, she says, her voice raspy with sleep, that this is a hallucination. I wish, I manage, sitting up and running a hand through my own tangled hair. My pulse is hammering a frantic rhythm against my jaw. Unfortunately, the rain is real. The suite is real. And you definitely just used me as a body pillow. She looks down at herself, checking her clothes, then back at me. Her hand hovers near her throat, fingers trembling slightly before she forces them into a fist. This cannot be happening. The presentation is in 2 hours. I know. If anyone saw us. She trails off, the implication hanging heavy in the humid air. Her gaze drops to where her hand had been on my waist just moments ago. She looks almost betrayed by her own body. We were working. The storm knocked the power out. We sat down to wait it out. And then we didn't, I finish for her. The memory of the shift, the air charging, the distance collapsing, is right there, hovering between us. Natalia, we have to get it together. She straightens her spine, the armor clicking back into place piece by piece. She smooths her hair, buttons her collar, and fixes me with a look that tries for icy but lands somewhere near desperate. We speak of this to no one. This was a lapse in judgment caused by exhaustion and atmospheric pressure. Atmospheric pressure? I almost laugh, but the tension is too thick. Is that what we're calling it? We are professionals, she snaps, but there's no heat in it. Her eyes flick to my lips, then away, a betrayal of focus that makes my stomach flip. Go. Fix yourself. I need 5 minutes. I scramble off the bed, the loss of her warmth hitting me like a physical blow. I grab my bag and retreat to the bathroom, locking the door with a click that sounds like a gunshot. I grip the porcelain sink, staring at my reflection. My face is flushed, eyes bright and terrified. I splash cold water on my skin, gasping as the chill hits. It does nothing to cool the heat still coiling in my belly. I close my eyes, and the sound of the rain drags me back. Back to how this insanity started. Back to the arrival. 3 days ago feels like it happened in a different lifetime, to a different person. I close my eyes, and I'm back on the dock, the wooden planks burning hot under the soles of my sandals. The memory is so vivid, I can practically taste the salt spray. The arrival at Verde Horizon wasn't just a business trip. It was a statement. The seaplane had banked hard over the Costa Rican coastline, dropping us into a bay that looked like it had been carved out of emeralds and turquoise glass. When the door opened, the heat hit me like a physical wall, humid, heavy, and smelling of wet earth and blooming jasmine. I loved it immediately. That's my thing. I'm the American manager who doesn't believe in air-conditioned bubbles. I believe in sweating. I believe in the mess. My entire pitch for this resort contract relies on organized chaos. The idea that luxury shouldn't feel sterile, that guests should feel the pulse of the jungle, the community, the grit of the place. I stepped onto the dock, my linen suit already wrinkling in the best possible way, and immediately started chatting with the pilot about the best local spot for ceviche. I was loud, I was taking up space, and I was smiling like I already owned the place. I felt expansive, ready to charm the board with warmth and vision. Then the second seaplane landed, and Natalia arrived. If I walked onto the scene, Natalia Volkov descended. I watched her emerge from the cabin, and I swear the humidity recoiled out of respect. She was wearing a structured cream pantsuit that defied the laws of tropical physics. Not a wrinkle, not a sweat stain, not a single hair out of place. She looked like a piece of modern art that had been dropped into a rainforest. Beautiful, expensive, and completely untouched by her surroundings. I knew who she was, of course. Everyone in the industry knows Natalia. She's the prodigy. Her father is a legendary Eastern European developer, known for brutalist luxury, and her mother is a Japanese hotelier, famous for invisible, perfect service. Natalia is the terrifying synthesis of both. She embodies a discipline that makes my community vibes approach look like a finger painting class. As she walked down the dock, her movements were precise, economical. She didn't look at the jungle. She scanned it. She wasn't admiring the view. She was assessing liabilities. I remember the distinct feeling of my confidence shrinking. The board members were waiting at the end of the pier, but Natalia stopped in front of me first. It was a power move. She forced me to acknowledge her before I could get to the decision makers. "You must be the American," she said. Her voice was low, accented with a mix of sharp consonants and clipped vowels that sounded incredibly sophisticated. It wasn't a question. It was a label. "And you must be the competition," I replied, extending my hand. I tried to keep my smile easy, the kind of open, friendly expression that usually disarms people. "I'm a big fan of your work in Zurich. Very symmetrical." She looked at my hand for a fraction of a second too long, as if checking for dirt, before taking it. Her grip was shocking. I expected something limp or polite, but her hand was cool, dry, and firm. It was a handshake that established boundaries. My skin was hot from the sun, damp with the humidity, and the contrast between my heat and her cool composure was jarring. "Symmetry minimizes error," she said, releasing my hand with a precise motion. Her dark eyes, shaped by her mother but holding the icy intensity of her father, dissected me. She took in my windblown hair, the slight sheen of sweat on my collarbone, the wrinkles in my linen. "And I have reviewed your portfolio as well. It is very spirited." "Spirited is one way to put it," I countered, refusing to let her make me feel small. "I prefer alive." "Alive things tend to be unpredictable," she said, turning her gaze toward the chaotic green wall of the jungle. "And unpredictability is bad for business." That was the moment, the line in the sand. I watched her walk toward the board members, her spine straight as a steel rod, and I knew this wasn't just a competition for a contract. It was a war between control and chaos. She wanted to tame this place. I wanted to let it breathe. I hated her instantly. I hated her perfection, her judgment, and the way she made me feel like a messy child. But as I watched her navigate the uneven planks of the dock in heels that should have been impossible, I also felt a grudging, terrifying spike of adrenaline. She was going to be impossible to beat, and I was going to enjoy trying. If the arrival was the declaration of war, the site inspection the next day was the first bloody skirmish. The memory is sticky with heat. We were deep in the property's interior, a sprawling network of canopy walkways suspended 50 feet above the rainforest floor. The air up there wasn't thinner. It was thicker. A soup of humidity that clung to my skin and made my linen shirt stick to my back within 10 minutes. I was wiping sweat from my forehead, feeling the frizz in my hair expand with every step, while Natalia looked like she was strolling through a climate-controlled museum. She walked ahead of the group, her heels traded for sensible but terrifyingly expensive designer boots. She moved with that distinct, lethal grace I was starting to recognize. Efficient, silent, wasting no energy. Every time she pointed out a structural flaw or a liability risk, her voice was crisp, cutting through the ambient noise of insects and calling birds like a scalpel. "The railing height here is insufficient," she said, tapping a teak banister with a manicured nail. She didn't look at the view. She looked at the measurements. "And this wood, it is porous. The rot will set in within 2 rainy seasons. We replace it with treated composite and steel." "You want to put steel in a living canopy?" I stepped forward, unable to help myself. The board members turned, sensing the shark in the water. "The whole point of Verde Horizon is immersion. If you wrap the guests in industrial metal, you might as well build this in a parking lot in Chicago. It needs to breathe. We use local treated hardwoods, employ the indigenous artisans to maintain it. It creates a cycle of community ownership." Natalia turned to me slowly. The shade of the canopy dappled her face, but her eyes were dark, unreadable pools. "Community ownership is a lovely sentiment for a brochure," she said, her tone smooth and patronizingly calm. "But sentiment does not prevent lawsuits when a guest falls through a rotted beam. My priority is safety and longevity. Yours appears to be vibes." "My priority is the soul of the project," I shot back, stepping into her space. The walkway was narrow, forcing us into an intimacy that felt dangerous. "You can't engineer a feeling, Natalia. You can't spreadsheet your way to an experience people remember. You're trying to sterilize the jungle, and you are trying to romanticize negligence." We stared at each other. The air between us was suddenly hotter than the midday sun. It wasn't just annoyance anymore, it was friction. High-stakes, intellectual friction. I realized, with a jolt that had nothing to do with business, that I was enjoying this. Fighting with her was like dancing with someone who knew exactly how to counter every move. It was sharp. It was fast. It was exhilarating. Her Japanese heritage demanded perfection. Her Eastern European side demanded dominance. And my American stubbornness was the wall she kept crashing against. We continued the tour like that, a two-person storm moving through the trees. We argued over water filtration, over lighting, over the distance between guest pods. Every objection she raised, I parried. Every vision I painted, she dissected. It was exhausting. And yet, I was anchored to her. I tracked the way her throat moved when she swallowed water from her canteen, and the way her hands, usually so still, gestured sharply when she got passionate about structural integrity. Then came the slip. We were descending a steep, moss-covered path toward the waterfall. I was busy explaining the biodiversity of the moss to a bored investor, gesturing wildly, when my sandal found a slick patch of wet stone. Gravity vanished. My feet went out from under me, and for a terrifying second, I was tilting backward into the ravine. I didn't fall. A hand shot out, grabbing my forearm with shocking speed. Natalia. She had been 3 steps ahead, but she'd spun around instantly. Her grip was iron tight, her fingers digging into my skin, anchoring me. She yanked me forward, hard, pulling me out of the fall and directly into her personal space. I stumbled against her, my chest colliding with her shoulder. For a frozen moment, we didn't move. I could feel the heat radiating off her, the solid, surprising strength of her body beneath that pristine clothes. Her hand was still wrapped around my arm, her thumb pressing into the pulse point at my wrist, which was currently hammering like a trapped bird. She didn't let go immediately. She looked down at me, her eyes wide, the cool mask cracked just enough to show a flash of genuine alarm. I smelled it then, that scent of rain and cedar, clean and expensive. "Careful," she breathed. The word was low, stripped of her usual condescension. "You are reckless." "I'm agile," I whispered back, though my voice shook. "You are lucky." Her gaze dropped to my mouth, then snapped back up to my eyes. The tension that had been intellectual all morning suddenly shifted, becoming heavy, physical, and undeniable. Her fingers flexed on my arm, a subconscious squeeze, before she abruptly released me and stepped back, smoothing her shirt as if my touch had wrinkled it. "Passion," the chairman chuckled from behind us, oblivious to the fact that the air was currently vibrating. "I love the passion you two have for the work. Keeps us on our toes." Natalia turned away, her spine stiffening back into that familiar steel rod. "We should continue," she said, her voice clipped. "We are behind schedule." But she didn't look at me again for the rest of the hike. If there is a specific circle of hell reserved for ambitious executives, I am convinced it looks exactly like a mandatory collaborative navigation challenge. The retreat organizers, in their infinite wisdom, decided that the best way to foster synergy between two people who fundamentally despise each other's methods was to drop us at a remote trail marker with a compass, a paper map, and a single bottle of water. They drove the Jeep away, leaving us in a silence so profound it felt heavy. The jungle here wasn't the manicured perimeter near the lodge. This was the deep stuff. Green walls of vegetation rose on all sides, blocking out the sun and turning the air into a humid, suffocating blanket. It was beautiful, wild, and chaotic. Everything I loved. And judging by the way Natalia was holding the map like she wanted to strangle it, everything she hated. "We head north-northwest," she announced, not looking at me. She adjusted her grip on the compass, her knuckles white. "The rendezvous point is 3 kilometers away. If we maintain a steady pace of 4 kilometers per hour, accounting for terrain, we will arrive in 45 minutes. "Natalia," I said, gesturing to the wall of vines in front of us, "you can't pace set a jungle. You have to move with it. The trail is washed out here. We need to cut left, toward the ridge." She looked at me with that familiar mix of pity and annoyance. The map says the ridge is impassable. We follow the marked route. The map is 2 years old. That ridge has a game trail. I can see it. We follow the map. She marched forward, plunging into the undergrowth with the determination of a soldier. I sighed and followed. For 20 minutes, we hacked through ferns that were taller than us. The air grew heavier, the humidity pressing against my skin like a hot towel. Natalia didn't slow down, but I could see the cracks forming. The pristine lines of her outfit were softening with sweat. Her breathing was controlled but tight. We were, inevitably, hopelessly lost. The marked route ended abruptly at a sheer drop-off that definitely wasn't on her paper. Natalia stopped. She stared at the cliff, then at the map, then back at the cliff. She rotated the map 90 degrees, as if changing the orientation would magically build a bridge. It is inconsistent, she muttered, her voice tight. The topography does not match the data. Because the data is static, I said, stepping up beside her. I was sweating, my hair plastered to my neck, but I felt at home here. And this is alive. It changes. You have to stop trying to force it to make sense and just listen to it. She spun on me, and the snap of her composure was audible. I do not want to listen to the dirt. I want to know where I am. I hate this. I hate the inefficiency. I hate that it is messy and illogical and refuses to be ordered. It wasn't just frustration. It was genuine distress. For the first time, I saw the immense pressure she lived under. The weight of that dual legacy, the demand for Japanese perfection and European dominance, didn't leave room for getting lost. To her, this wasn't a hike. It was a failure. Hey, I said, dropping my voice. The anger drained out of me. It's okay to not be in control for 5 minutes. The world won't end. Mine will, she whispered, almost to herself. She looked exhausted, the heat flushing her pale skin. She leaned back against a tree, closing her eyes. I am thirsty. I unclipped the canteen from my belt. It was the only one we had, another bonding tactic by the organizers. I unscrewed the cap and handed it to her. Here. She took it, her fingers brushing mine, cool dampness against dry heat. She didn't wipe the rim. She lifted the bottle, tilting her head back, and I forgot how to breathe. I watched the long, elegant line of her throat work as she swallowed. I watched a single drop of water escape the corner of her mouth and trail down her neck, disappearing into the collar of her shirt. It was mesmerizing. It was intimate in a way that felt illicit. She lowered the bottle, catching me staring. Her lips were wet, slightly parted, her chest rising and falling with deep breaths. She didn't look away. She held the bottle out to me, the plastic warm from her hand. Your turn, she said softly. I took it. I deliberately placed my lips exactly where hers had been. The metal rim still held the ghost of her warmth. I drank, eyes locked on hers over the tilted bottom of the canteen, tasting the water and something else, the electric, unspoken acknowledgement of what we were doing. It was an indirect kiss, a shared resource, a survival instinct that felt dangerously like desire. I lowered the bottle, capping it slowly. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore. It was charged. The ridge, she said, her voice dropping an octave, lacking its usual bite. You said there was a game trail? Yeah, I cleared my throat, trying to restart my brain. Yeah, it's this way. We turned back, moving together now, not as rivals, but as a unit. But as we found the path, the light began to change. The vibrant green canopy above us was darkening, bruising into a deep, ominous purple. The air pressure dropped so fast, my ears popped. The storm wasn't just coming. It was here. 1 second, we are scrambling up the muddy bank toward the main complex, and the next, the world dissolves into a wall of gray water. It's violent tropical rain, the kind that hurts when it hits your skin. We sprint the last 50 yards, heads ducked, sliding on the teak walkways, until we crash into the open-air library lounge. We barely make it under the thatched overhang before the wind picks up, howling through the trees like a wounded animal. I'm gasping for air, wiping water from my eyes. Natalia is standing next to me, her chest heaving. Her pristine cream suit is soaked through, clinging to her skin, transparent in places she would never usually allow. Her hair is plastered to her skull, dark strands dripping water onto her collarbones. She doesn't look like a CEO. She looks like a survivor. Then, with a sound like a heavy sigh, the resort dies. The hum of the generators cuts out. The pathway lights flicker and vanish. The main lodge in the distance goes black. We are plunged into a darkness so total it feels heavy, pressing against my eyelids. The grid, Natalia says, her voice cutting through the roar of the rain. The solar reserves failed. It's a storm, Natalia. Things break. Inadequate redundancy, she mutters. But she doesn't move. I fumble my way toward the concierge desk in the center of the lounge, my hands guiding me along the rattan furniture. Stay put. I saw an emergency box here yesterday. My fingers brush against cold metal. A tin box. I find the matches and the oil lamps. The scratch of the match is loud in the dark, a sharp burst of sulfur that briefly overtakes the smell of rain. I touch the flame to the wick, and a soft, golden sphere of light blooms outward. I light 3 lamps, placing them on the low coffee table between the plush sofas. The light transforms the space. The library, usually airy and corporate, becomes a cave. The shadows are long and flickering, dancing against the bamboo walls. Outside, the rain has created a curtain, sealing us in. We are the only 2 people on Earth. Natalia moves toward the light like a moth. She sits on the edge of the sofa, her posture rigid, arms wrapped around herself. The amber glow softens the sharp angles of her face, erasing the coldness and leaving something else exposed. Exhaustion. You're shivering, I say, sitting on the opposite sofa, close enough that our knees almost brush. It is the adrenaline dump, she says, staring at the flame. And the cold. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. She looks small. It's a jarring thought. Natalia Volkov, the Titan, looking small. You hate this, I say softly. Not just the rain, the lack of control. She looks up at me. Her eyes are dark, reflecting the tiny flames. I do not know how to be passive. I do not know how to wait for the storm to pass. Is that the Japanese side or the European side talking? A humorless smile touches her lips. Both and neither. She uncrosses her arms, resting her hands on her knees. Her knuckles are pale. My mother is Japanese. She taught me that perfection is a form of respect. To be flawed is to insult those around you. My father, he is Russian. He taught me that the world is a hammer, and you are either the hand that holds it or the nail it strikes. That's a lot of pressure for one person. It is not just pressure. It is a requirement. She looks down at her hands. To be mixed is to be questioned. In Tokyo, I am too loud, too tall, too foreign. In Moscow, I am too quiet, too subtle. I am never enough of one thing to belong, so I must be better than everyone at everything. I must be undeniable. The confession hangs in the humid air, heavier than the storm. I look at her, really look at her. I see the lines of strain around her eyes, the constant calculation that keeps her safe. She isn't cold because she doesn't feel. She's armored because she feels everything. I get it, I say, my voice low. I don't have the legacy. No empire, no famous parents. I'm just a kid from Ohio who realized early on that if I didn't make noise, I'd disappear. You fight to stay on the pedestal. I fight just to get into the room. Natalia looks at me then. The mask is completely gone. There is a raw, terrifying honesty in her gaze. We are both fighting, she whispers. We are just using different weapons. Maybe, I say. I lean forward, drawn in by the gravity of her. Or maybe we're just both lonely at the top of the hill. She doesn't pull away. The storm rages outside, deafening and violent. But in this circle of lamplight, the silence between us is thick, charged, and suddenly, dangerously intimate. The business rivalry feels miles away, washed out by the rain. All that's left is the heat rising between us, and the way her eyes have dropped to my mouth. I shift on the sofa, sliding inches toward her until our knees are touching again. This time, neither of us pulls back. The oil lamps flicker violently in a sudden draft, casting long, dancing shadows across Natalia's face, turning the hollows of her collarbones into pools of darkness. She is staring at the flame, her profile sharp. There's a softness around her mouth that I've never seen in the boardroom. You know, the words slip out before I can filter them. You look beautiful when you stop calculating every possible outcome. Natalia freezes. It's not a subtle pause. It's a total arrest of motion. She turns her head slowly, her dark eyes locking onto mine. Usually her gaze is a scanner, dissecting weaknesses and assessing value. Now, it's wide, unguarded, and startlingly human. The air between us thickens, charged with something that makes the hair on my arms stand up. It's not the humidity anymore. It's the sudden, terrifying drop in distance. I am not calculating, she says, her voice low, barely audible over the storm. I am trying to focus. On what? On anything that is not you. The admission hangs there, suspended in the amber light. My heart slams against my ribs, a frantic, heavy rhythm. Natalia Volkov, the woman who treats emotions like inefficiencies, just admitted I'm a distraction. I didn't think you noticed me, I whisper, leaning in closer. Except as a liability. I notice everything, she counters, and her voice wavers, a crack in the porcelain. You are vibrant chaos. You are reckless and loud, and you take up all the air in the room. I have been trying to ignore you for 3 days, but you are persistent. I'm just existing, Natalia. That is the problem. She shifts, turning her body fully toward me. Your existence is disruptive to my equilibrium. The gap between us is gone. I can feel the heat radiating from her damp clothes, smell the rain and the cedar perfume that clings to her skin. The tension that has been coiling tight in my gut since the moment she stepped off that seaplane snaps. It's not rivalry. It never was. It was this. She reaches out. Her hand, usually so steady, hesitates before she cups my face. Her palm is cool against my heated skin, her thumb brushing the line of my jaw with a reverence that steals the breath from my lungs. I lean into her touch instinctively, my eyes fluttering shut. Natalia, I breathe. Quiet, she commands, but it's a plea. She closes the distance. The first touch of her lips is tentative, a question asked in the dark. But the second is an answer. It's a collision of pent-up frustration and undeniable magnetism. Her mouth is soft, tasting of rain and expensive wine, but the kiss itself is demanding. It's the release of 3 days of intellectual sparring, of fighting for dominance, finally channeled into something physical. I make a sound low in my throat and grip her waist, pulling her flush against me. She gasps into my mouth, her hands tangling in my damp hair, pulling me closer still. It's sultry and deep, a slow burn that ignites into a wildfire. There is no business plan for this. There is no strategy. There is only the feeling of her body solid against mine, the way her composure shatters under my hands. Suddenly, a gust of wind rips through the open side of the lounge, spraying us with cold rain. The lamp nearest to us sputters and dies. "My cabin!" I gasp, breaking the kiss but not the hold. "It's 2 doors down. It's enclosed." She nods, eyes dark and blown wide. We scramble up, hands linked, and run into the storm. The wind whips at our clothes, the rain soaking us instantly. But we're laughing, breathless, adrenaline-fueled laughter. We stumble into my suite, the door slamming shut against the gale. The room is pitch black, but I don't need light. We collapse onto the bed, limbs tangled, wet clothes clinging to skin, breathing the same air. Caught in a gravity we can no longer fight. The memory fades, dissolving into the steam of the bathroom mirror. I blink, staring at my own flushed reflection, the ghost of that kiss still burning on my lips. When I finally unlock the bathroom door, Natalia is already a different person. She has somehow managed to smooth the worst of the wrinkles from her dried cream suit, and her hair is pulled back into a severe architectural bun. She is standing by the window, checking her watch with a precision that chills the lingering heat in my blood. "The path to my cabin is clear," she says, without turning around. Her voice is back to its factory setting, cool, clipped, and devoid of inflection. "I will retrieve my presentation materials and meet you at the main lodge in 45 minutes. "Natalia," I start, but the name feels too heavy in my mouth. She turns then. Her eyes are guarded, walled off behind layers of discipline. We have a job to do. The board expects a decision today. They expect professional excellence. She pauses, and for a second her gaze drops to my lips before snapping back up. What happened last night was a reaction to stress. It is an outlier data point. It does not affect the projection. An outlier data point, I repeat, a bitter laugh bubbling up. Is that what we're calling the best kiss of my life? She flinches. It's microscopic, a tightening of her jaw, a flare of her nostrils. But I see it. It is what we must call it if we want to leave this island with our careers intact. Do you want the contract, or do you want a scandal? I stop. I don't know what I want anymore. I want to win fair. Then forget this happened. She walks past me toward the door. As she passes, the scent of her, cedar and rain, hits me again, and my body reacts with a traitorous pull. She pauses with her hand on the latch. She doesn't look back. "I will see you in the boardroom. Do not be late." The door clicks shut, and the silence she leaves behind is deafening. 20 minutes later, I am walking the path to the main lodge. I've changed into a fresh linen suit, navy blue this time, sharp but breathable. And I'm trying to walk like I didn't just spend the night entangled with the enemy. But the jungle feels different now. The humidity feels like a touch. The sound of the birds feels like gossip. Every member of the staff I pass, the groundskeeper raking leaves, the concierge driving a cart, seems to look at me with knowing eyes. They know, my brain whispers. They saw her leave. I keep my head high, channeling Natalia's armor, but inside, I'm a mess of static. The main lodge is bustling. The storm is cleared, leaving the air scrubbed clean and the view over the bay sparkling with aggressive brightness. The board members are gathered on the terrace, a sea of beige and gray suits against the vibrant green backdrop. The smell of strong Costa Rican coffee and sliced papaya is overwhelming. I spot Natalia immediately. She's standing near the railing, holding a ceramic cup, listening to Julian, the youngest board member. Julian is slick, ambitious, and currently leaning into Natalia's personal space with a familiarity that makes my teeth ache. "I must say," Julian is saying, his voice drifting over the clatter of silverware, "you weathered the storm beautifully, Natalia. Most people wilt in this humidity, but you look pristine. He reaches out, his hand hovering near her elbow, a casual, flirtatious gesture. A spike of jealousy, hot and sharp as a knife, twists in my gut. It's irrational. It's possessive. It's a visceral rejection of him touching her. I know the fire that burns under that ice. I know the sound she makes when she loses control. He sees the statue. I know the woman. Natalia shifts, subtly stepping out of his reach without being rude. It's a masterclass in body language. She catches my eye across the terrace. Her expression doesn't change, but her gaze holds mine for a second too long. It's a warning. It's an acknowledgement. Stay back, it says. Don't ruin this. I grab a coffee, the porcelain rattling slightly against the saucer. I force a smile as the chairman waves me over. Ah, the American arrives. Ready for the main event? Born ready, I lie, my voice steady even though my hands are shaking. Good, he claps me on the back. Because we're starting early. The storm cleared the schedule. You're up in 10. I look at Natalia. She's already moving toward the conference room, her spine straight, her focus absolute. The game is back on. But as I swallow the bitter coffee, I realize the rules have completely changed. The conference room is a climate-controlled aquarium suspended over the jungle canopy. 3 walls are floor-to-ceiling glass, offering a panoramic view of the steaming rainforest, while the 4th is a sleek expanse of whiteboards and screens. The air conditioning is humming a low, artificial note that clashes with the vibrant, chaotic world outside. It feels sterile. It feels like a courtroom. Natalia is up first. She stands at the head of the heavy teak table, the remote clicker in her hand like a weapon. She has completely reassembled herself since the morning. The vulnerability of the rainstorm is gone, replaced by the terrifying efficiency of her lineage. She doesn't just present, she dissects. Her slides are minimalist masterpieces, black text on white backgrounds, architectural renderings that emphasize symmetry, safety, and yield management. The current layout invites liability, she says, her voice cool and projecting perfectly to the back of the room. She points to a rendering of the guest pods. By reinforcing the walkways with steel tension cables and enclosing the open-air lounges with storm glass, we reduce insurance premiums by 40%. We create a controlled environment, predictable, secure. The board members are nodding. They like predictable. They like secure. Julian is taking notes furiously, looking at Natalia like she's a deity of profit margins. I watch her from the far end of the table. To anyone else, she looks invincible. Her posture is perfect, her cadence rhythmic and assured. But I am not anyone else. I am the person who held her while she shivered in the dark. I am the person who knows what her breathing sounds like when the armor cracks. And I see it. Her hand, the left one, holding her notes. It's resting on the table, but the index finger is tapping a microscopic, erratic rhythm against the wood. It's a tremor. A tiny physical betrayal of the immense pressure she is holding back. She isn't cold. She is terrified. She is terrified of failing her father's legacy, of being too much or not enough, of the chaos she can't control. My chest aches. It's a physical pang, sharp and sudden. I realize, with a sinking feeling, that I don't want to beat her. Not like this. Thank you, Ms. Volkov, the chairman says, looking impressed. Very thorough, very disciplined. Natalia nods once, tight and professional, and sits down. She doesn't look at me. She stares straight ahead, her hands clasped tightly in her lap to hide the shake. You're up, the chairman says, turning to me. I stand up. My legs feel heavy. I walk to the front of the room, plugging in my laptop. My title slide comes up. Vibrant greens, warm sunlight, photos of local artisans weaving thatch. It's the opposite of her presentation. It's messy. It's human. It's exactly what I came here to pitch. Verde Horizon isn't a fortress, I start, my voice sounding louder than I intended. It's a living thing. Guests don't come here to feel safe. They come here to feel alive. I launch into my speech. I talk about community integration, about the sensory experience of the rain, about the smell of the earth. I see the board members shifting. They are charmed, but they are worried. They are thinking about the outlier data points Natalia mentioned. I look at Natalia. She's watching me now. Her expression is resigned. She expects me to go for the throat. She expects me to highlight how sterile her plan is, how it kills the vibe, how it turns a rainforest into a clinic. That's the winning move. That's the strategy. I look at the slide behind me, a picture of a guest laughing in the rain. Then I look at Natalia's white knuckles. I can't do it. I stop mid-sentence. The silence in the room stretches, heavy and confused. But, I say, and the word hangs there. Being alive is dangerous. Natalia frowns, a tiny crease appearing between her brows. My plan has a flaw, I admit, turning to the board. It prioritizes emotion over infrastructure. And Ms. Volkov's plan has a flaw. It prioritizes infrastructure over emotion. I step away from the podium, moving to the center of the room. You can't tame the jungle, but you can't just let it eat you either. If we build my version, the maintenance costs will bankrupt us in 5 years. If we build hers, no one will come back because they could have gotten the same experience in a hotel in Tokyo. I take a breath. I am going off script. I am risking everything. We don't need one vision, I say, looking directly at Natalia. We need the friction. We need the steel to hold up the thatch. We need the discipline to make the chaos sustainable. This property shouldn't be a choice between safety and soul. It should be the tension between them. I turn back to the board. I'm withdrawing my solo proposal. I'm suggesting a hybrid. Her structure, my experience, co-management. The room goes dead silent. The chairman blinks. Julian stops writing, but Natalia is staring at me, her mouth slightly parted, the tremor in her hands gone. She doesn't look angry. She looks like she's seeing me for the first time, all over again. The doors to the conference room slide shut, sealing the board members inside with our fate. We are left standing on the teak terrace, the humidity instantly wrapping around us like a heavy blanket. The silence is absolute, broken only by the distant, echoing call of a macaw deep in the canopy. Natalia turns to me slowly. She looks shaken, her composure rattled not by failure, but by the unexpected pivot. She walks to the railing, gripping the damp wood until her knuckles turn white. You sabotaged yourself, she says, her voice low and tight. She refuses to look at me. You had them. They were charmed. You could have dismantled my proposal piece by piece, and you chose to dilute your own victory. Why? I didn't dilute it, I say, stepping up beside her. I don't touch her. Not yet. The air is too fragile. I strengthened it. And I didn't sabotage myself, Natalia. I saved us both. She finally turns, her dark eyes searching mine. This makes no sense. In business, you eliminate the competition. That is the rule. Maybe I'm tired of the rules, I admit. And maybe I realize that I can't separate the business from the person anymore. She freezes. What does that mean? It means the storm wasn't a glitch, I say, my voice steady. It means that when I look at this project, I see the structure you built. And when I look at you, I don't see an obstacle. I see the only person who challenges me enough to make me better, who sees the method in my madness. I don't want to win if it means sending you back to that lonely, perfect tower in Zurich. Natalia's jagged breath hitches. The steel rod in her spine seems to dissolve. She sags against the railing, the exhaustion of a lifetime of perfectionism finally crashing down. "I do not want to go back," she whispers, the admission barely audible. "It is cold at the top. I am tired of being the hammer." "Then be the partner," I say. Before she can answer, the glass doors slide open. Julian beckons us back in. The walk to the table feels miles long. The chairman looks at us, tapping his pen on the mahogany. "We are intrigued," he announces. "The synergy is unexpected, but the financials of the hybrid model are compelling. We are offering a 6-month probationary joint contract. If you can make this friction productive without killing each other, the resort is yours." We don't celebrate in the room. We nod, sign the papers, her signature sharp and precise, mine looping and bold, and walk out with professional grace. But the moment we are out of sight, down the winding path toward the guest cabins, the facade drops. We don't go to the main bar for champagne. We go to my cabin. The door clicks shut, locking out the world, the heat, and the expectations. Natalia turns to me, her eyes bright, and the smile she gives me is small, terrified, and breathtakingly real. "Partners," she says, testing the word. "Partners." I agree. She steps close, her hands finding my waist, grounding me. "This will be difficult. You are messy. You are impulsive. And you are rigid and bossy," I counter, leaning in until our foreheads touch. "It will be a disaster," she murmurs, tilting her head. "It'll be perfect," I whisper. When she kisses me, it isn't the desperate, stormy collision of last night. It is slow. It is deliberate. It is a contract signed in breath and skin, sealing a deal that feels heavier than the one on the table. It's a promise that the rivalry hasn't ended. It's just evolved into something far more dangerous and infinitely more rewarding. We walk out to the small balcony, looking over the jungle as the sun begins to set, painting the sky in violent purples and golds. Her hand finds mine, her cool fingers interlocking with my warm ones. A perfect, unbreakable seal. The competition didn't end today. It just changed shape. We didn't choose the safe path or the solitary win. We chose the friction, the mess, and the terrifying thrill of building something together. The torrential rain has finally stopped, leaving the jungle vibrant, loud, and alive, mirroring the fresh, exhilarating start of whatever this is between us. If you want to see where this high-stakes partnership goes next, subscribe and follow the journey.